All about that blade, no mallet. See, that puts you in a good mood.
It does.
That's it.
A perfect mood to start the show. Hey everybody, and welcome back. This is No Putts Given, episode number 75, and the main question we're addressing today is how long can Titleists hang on to the number one spot in the golf ball world? We've got Tony, Harry, and Chris here to break it down. But guys, couple orders of business first. Number one is Matt. Happy birthday. He's behind the scenes, making sure that we all look and sound great, but it's a big happy birthday to Matt.
Happy birthday, Matt.
Woo, Matt, yeah, boo.
I don't even know how old Matt is. How old is Matt?
Ooh, should we guess or is that rude?
Matt is 32 years young.
That wasn't much of a game. Thanks, Harry.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That game
Straight
sucked.
to the point here at MyGolfSpy.
Moving on then, we do have some new testing that we've released this week, the first of which is blade putters. So, Harry, can you break it down, the top 5 best blade putters in 2021?
All right, well, I'm going to do top 4 and best value. How about that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, best value is the Tommy Armour Impact number 2. It did really well this year. It was best performing putter from 5 feet. If you're looking for some stability in that 5-foot zone, that is the putter for you. Going on to 4, you got your Ping Answer 4. I putted with this and it's a very soft feeling putter. I really enjoyed it. And it was amongst the leaders for strokes gained at 20 feet. If you go to 3rd place, you've got one that you've already seen before, and that's a Scotty Cameron Special Select Square Back 2, which won in 2020 and is a very strong contender for the 2021 lineup. Runner-up is again Tommy Armour Impact number 2 wide. It is one of those putters that just did fantastic across all boards, but really shone in the 5-foot category. And then the winner of the 2021 blade test is Odyssey White OG number 1 with the Stroke Lab shaft in it. And it was impressive. That was to say the least.
What made it impressive?
It was a positive strokes gained in all 3 distances. And the majority of the testers ranked highly in subjective feedback in all categories. So it's one of those putters that is good across all boards. It's just hard to say anything bad about that putter, period, for looking at the data.
Any new trends for 2021 that you saw coming out of blade putter testing this year, Harry?
I wouldn't say trends per se. It was more of you've got your face balance, you got your toe hang, you got your severe toe hang putters out there, and it's going to fit differently based on stroke type. But I will say that we did fit, if we had options to fit, based on stroke type. So we made it optimized for each tester. So that was I would put that in there too.
You bring up my next question. I wanted to breach the subject of putter fitting because we talk about fitting quite often, but putter fitting specifically isn't something we often get into. And Tony, I've got 2 studies that you did in conjunction with Ping a number of years ago, but the information is still relevant. I wanted to jump into how golfers can benefit from a putter fitting and how do they know they're going to the right place and getting the right type of fitting?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, putter fitting is like any other club fitting, except typically harder to find.
Yeah, I would say that.
Especially too when you get into, if you think about like modern iron fitting, driver fitting, all that stuff, right? Everything has a launch monitor attached to it, or most reputable places for sure. And so you're able to just pick up a whole bunch of data points to tell you what's really happening. That's fewer and far between with putter testing. Not every place has a Quintec or even is setting up their foresight for putting or whatever it happens to be, or using even TrackMan and FlightScope have putting capabilities now, but not everybody's using those to those potential. You don't typically see certainly at a big box location where the majority of golf clubs are bought, you typically don't see those putter fitting tools. So where you go is tough for sure, and like you sort of really want to be fit for a putter, and then you got to find a place that can do it, and that's hard. From within that, I mean, it is a lot like driver fitting. You're just trying to see what works and trying to understand why certain designs are working for certain golfers, and so. As with a driver, any other club, it's factors like weight. It's with a putter, it's alignment aids can make a difference. The toe hang, right? Whether it's face balanced or for a strong arc, things like that invariably can make a difference. But like any other fitting, right? No universal truths. So you really have to experience it. And we know that most golfers won't, and they're just going to walk into a shop. They're going to roll 10 putts with a few different ones, and whichever one they feel like is going in most often is going to be the one they buy.
Which is funny because if you go to these kind of big, good stores, like I'm not going to mention any names, but the putting green kind of slopes towards the hole as well. Oh, I made all 10. Great. Sweet. I'm going to get all putters here.
It's like the opposite of the carnival games where it like filters away, like it's impossible.
Exactly.
Hey, let me ask you a question about this. So you said the winner was White Hot OG, right?
Yeah, with Stroke Lab.
This OG White Hot insert, are we just skipping over the fact that like this is like how many year old technology? Like on the face insert part, like this is the OG. So we've had all these iterations, micro hinge, and then obviously we haven't seen a whole lot from the Toulon design component of that kind of tour milled type thing that was kind of supposed to go up against Scotty and some of these finer milled putters or whatever. But this is basically like the OG, right? Like the original White Hot insert from however many years ago, and now it's performing clearly as good, if not better, than everything else on the market in the blade category. And I mean, is this Callaway going back to the well, going, hey, this worked really well before? Is it out of ideas? Like, hey, we can't do anything better. We're going to go back to this, or are we saying that the best face technology is really decades old?
I wouldn't say that it is exactly the same because you have a shaft in there that wasn't in there previously. So face technology is one question, but does the shaft really help this putter out? And is it all the shaft or is it the face? We have no way of saying that, but we did test the Stroke Lab shaft versus non-Stroke Lab shaft, which we'll be writing a really cool article on that coming up this year.
This year,
2021.
See, I don't even know what bloody year it is. It's one of those years.
Definitely going to, at some point this year, we will write that.
At some point this year, we will write it. But it is a really cool little study that we can use as a lab. And yes, the Stroke Lab outperformed just a normal shaft that you can see in any putter. Is there something in that? There clearly is, but it might not be just the old face that you see. It might be just the shaft too.
I just think it's interesting, like in that top 5, that kind of list there, right? Are we seeing an absence of groove technology in that top 5, 10 list? Are we seeing trends in different inserts? Like I said, number 1 is going way back. Number 2 is basically $150 more budget-friendly option, Tommy Armour, that even though people probably should have more an appreciation for how those products are designed and engineered and whatever, it's not necessarily the same household name as a Cameron or a Ping or an Odyssey. And then, we do in that 3rd, 4th spot, you get to Cameron, you get to Ping, but it seems to me that there's kind of a shift going on here, possibly.
Potentially, yeah. You do see a little bit of a shift here and there. The only thing about it is we do not know what's behind that face.
Graphene. Graphene is behind the face.
But we know, I know for a fact that there are a couple of putters out there, and they're older, that have hit the USGA list, and they told the USGA they're this, but actually behind the scenes, when you cut it open, it is not what the USGA would approve. So I know there is stuff out there.
What do you mean? Like, be specific. Like what? Like you're telling me manufacturers are lying to the USGA to get stuff around their rules and things?
I mean, I don't think it's common.
It's not common, but it happens.
And I certainly, Odyssey's not going to be doing that at all. I think it's just
my premise was we don't officially know unless you cut that baby open and see what's behind that face. It could well be there's some technology behind that. Likelihood is probably not, but you can't rule it out. As all I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an insert that worked really well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's an insert that people loved years ago, right? And so why not bring it back? The technology is still as good now as it was then. And I think with a putter, we know things like groove designs can help. And, you know, there's probably an argument to be made that a lot of the reasons why you've seen a good bit of the groove technology depart the market across a few different manufacturers' lines is for legal and patent reasons, right? There's, I mean, that's a real thing that happens. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense to go back to a well that works. And if you can design a putter that guys deliver consistently and are able to, for whatever reason, align where it needs to be pointed at impact, you can get good results. And I think that's what we saw in this case.
And I think if we fast forward to next year and then the year after that, and it's still popping up like this, I think, we can safely say that the face technology could potentially be getting overridden by old school technology, but you don't know.
It'll change. I mean, there'll be something new and better and more exciting next year. And who knows, a decade from now, maybe we'll see, the OG white hot return.
Right.
Everything is cyclical, especially in a club like a putter where the room for technology is small.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And so ultimately, it's hey, can I align this thing properly? Can I deliver it consistently? And I think that consistent delivery piece is perhaps where the Stroke Lab shaft came into play.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say for sure without really digging into some things and seeing what's out there. But again, at the end of the day, it's a putter is about as simple as it gets. There's not a lot of variety in the market, right? Miranda asked about trends. The trend is that it's the same damn shapes as last year and the year before that.
The only trend that you might be seeing is in the grip.
Right.
And the grip is
yeah, I mean, it's super stroke and
it's either a pistol, fat, or medium. And I mean, you've got even rolls, mid-lock grip, but that's for a different audience.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that those things come and go, right? And they'll be the next hot grip next year potentially. But the only thing you can, and it's entirely dependable, is you're going to see the same shapes or variations on those shapes over and over and over again. Not only because they're proven to work, especially in the blade category, golfers are really not interested in anything else but those shapes. So it's not going to be radical design. You're not going to see anything crazy. It just is what it is.
Well, Tony, you mentioned the blade category specifically. In a couple of weeks, we'll have mallets out. But what kind of putter would play a blade specifically? Is there a certain type?
This really gets interesting in the mallet conversation a little bit more. So there are some that will tell you that given how mallets have evolved, so once upon a time, right, mallets were almost exclusively face balanced. So if you had a straight back, straight through stroke, which a lot of people think they have, very few golfers actually do have, then mallets were really good fit for you. But now we're seeing, through hosel designs and some tweaks in the weighting, these kind of slight arc mallets and even strong arc mallets. So you're able to fit more golfers into mallets, and the argument there is they're more forgiving blades, lower MOI, less forgiving. I'm at the extreme end of the spectrum. I'm a really strong arc guy, so I can look at any putter lineup and basically say, all right, which one of these fits the strongest arc golfer, and that's going to be the one that's for me. And this has been, I've gone through a handful of putter fittings now where this has proven to be the case. So it's pretty reliable for me. So on the extreme end of things, you're probably going to have to lose the forgiveness and find a putter that's not going to kind of fight you with a stroke. But for most people, a mallet, we're getting to the point where mallets are probably going to be better.
Well, look at the top 10, 15 players on the PGA Tour, right? Or look, I would imagine if you look at strokes gained, my guess, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but my guess is you're going to see over 50% for sure of the best, the best putters on the highest tour in the world use mallet putters, not blade putters. And I wonder, again, if that's a trend, if that's a shift, or who. I know we saw Rory last week kind of go back to a blade style putter. He's obviously been in kind of that, what did you call it, Harry? The tweak mode, the tweak period, where,
the tweak period.
kind of figuring some stuff out. He obviously isn't where he wants to be with his putter, so he's kind of searching. But look at the guys that are in the very top for strokes gained, and I think you'll see an overwhelming majority of them using mallet putters, which just makes me wonder, because when I think about some of the best putters of all time, I don't associate them with mallet putters.
The tour is cyclical too, though, right? I had one of my buddies at a golf company, he's a senior level guy who basically said, look, if 1 week on the PGA Tour, some guy put some weird blue putter into his bag and happened to win the tournament, I'd have half a dozen guys looking for blue putters. So there's still that same kind of mentality, even at the pro level, that's most amateurs have, where, hey, if this works for somebody else, it may work for me. And so I think the kind of the trend, right? Guys started to have a little bit of success with mallets. I think TaylorMade Spider is probably, you could trace some of the modern growth in the mallet category to the success guys had with that. And so
Jason Day specifically,
yeah, invariably golfers are going to follow the trend of what is working for guys on tour. So
I would say that's only prevalent in the putter space. If it comes to irons and drivers, it's more to done with marketing with the OEMs, correct?
Well, they're locked into contracts, right? So if a guy wins with TaylorMade, everybody on a Titleist contract can't go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you do see it in the shaft space, where if somebody wins with a new shaft, everybody's like, all right, let me try that. Let's give that a go.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if somebody told me that the better players on the professional level, more of them are using mallets now as opposed to the past, and sticking with it.
I mean, that has to be true. I mean, just certainly if you look, Callaway's, their big push in the putter space this year is what their new number 10 putter, I think. That's
the 2-ball 10 guy.
It's all over social media. So that's kind of what the companies are pushing. But again, I think for most golfers, mallets are likely to be better. Everything in fitting is a probability until it's, until it goes into your bag.
It's all theoretical
But yeah, I think the blade space the functionality of a blade is narrower in terms of, forgiveness and things like that.
Chris, you touched on it. Tony, you've touched on it, that there are a number of things that influence what players buy in terms of putters, one of them being what's played on tour. The second is their assumed stroke type, and we're assuming that they have their stroke type correct when they're going to go buy a putter. But again, Tony, I'm looking at this study that you did with Ping, and
Ping did the study. We wrote it. That's all.
Okay. The study you wrote about that Ping did, one of their conclusions was that 16 out of 20 golfers that participated in this study needed a change in stroke type. So that's far beyond the vast majority had their stroke type wrong.
Yeah, 80%. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about, right? This idea that most golfers, and specifically most, believed they had or were fit into straight back, straight through putters, kind of those face balanced, typically mallet designs. That's what a lot of golfers, many golfers, the majority of golfers probably still believe, that they're straight back, straight through. And what we're learning is, no, most golfers have slight to moderate arcs. And so, from a fitting perspective, the probability, right? No absolutes here, but the probability is that golfer is going to fit into a different type of putter than he thinks he fits into.
It's a double-edged sword. You want to get fit, but there isn't many fitters. Your whole body, your whole stroke is changing and evolving as you do, as you age. If you went for a test 10 years ago, I always remember this. Pro said, I don't need to be fit because I got fit 10 years ago and I know what my stroke type is. His eyes have changed, his putting has changed, now his stroke has changed. So I guarantee if he was face back, straight through when he went to the test, an evaluation on his stroke, he's nowhere near that anymore. Your golf swing changes, it doesn't always stay stagnant. It's evolving slightly, whether it's a little
from swing to swing, man.
It is, exactly.
Some of us from day to day, swing to swing.
And sometimes what I see in the testing facility here is we get them on our little device and they're out to in on one, they're straight back on another, and then they're strong on another one. So it's one of those ones where they can't deliver the same every single time because It's just not how things operate for some amateur golfers.
Part of that is a fitting thing too. Like that's,
it's really tough.
I mean, going back and I'll be honest, I don't know to what extent it's still around. They stopped making cradles, I think, for a while there. But the Ping app, once upon a time, right? That was kind of the amazing thing where, you know, it would tell you what your stroke type is, would give you various consistency metrics, recommend a putter, and then, you know, we saw it ourselves when we went for fittings where, you know, changing the putter, those consistency metrics got a lot better. And so again, that's part of what you do with any other fitting, right? You take something that is inconsistent and try and find a way through whether it's weighting or in the case of a driver, a shaft, whatever it happens to be. Same thing with a putter with, you know, whether it's an alignment aid, the toe hang, the shape of the club, all these things, and try and coerce more consistent delivery out of the golfer. And I think that's ultimately what a good bit of fitting should be, is really focused on, all right, let's get you consistent first, and then let's see if we can kind of tweak some numbers as we go. But good luck with that putter store near you.
The big thing in my game is I'm always trying to eliminate variables. With equipment in my swing, I'm trying to get as most consistent as possible. We want to say that the pros are 100% dialed in. Sometimes they are in a round when you see them, just everything goes right. But the next round you could shoot 80. I mean, we saw that last week at the tournament. They're dialed in, but we can tie you in as much as we can. You've got to do the rest. Is probably the good way to put it too.
Wait, so you're meaning we have to be good at golf in order to be good at golf?
Yeah.
There's your takeaway.
Duh.
We haven't even gotten to, I mean, we're talking stroke type, right, of arc and stuff. We haven't even gotten to perceptions and how people line up putts. And vast majority of golfers probably have the wrong putter for their stroke type. And we also know the vast majority of golfers are not lined up where they think they're lined up. And so you have... and I think we're going to do a lab on that sometime this year too, right, Harry?
Maybe next year. Who knows?
In this 12-month span, is, you know, man, if you're not fit for the stroke that you currently have, and you're not lined up where you think you're lined up, it's no wonder that people in general don't get any better at putting, or really struggle with putting, because you haven't addressed those two variables. And you're not going to address those two variables unless you work with somebody who knows how to fit around those and work with you around those. And
or the fact about it is they know they have set up right, and then subconsciously they know to set up right, so they start closing the face down.
Sure.
Then it goes left, or they pull it on the hole. And now if they fix with the alignment and actually start pulling it left, because they're still doing a subconscious. It's just a shit show of things that come together. That's why I need to improve my putting, because I'm a shit show.
Well, on that note, we're going to link a couple of things here. Number one being the most recent Most Wanted test for blade putters in 2021. But I'm also going to give you a link to the studies that Ping conducted and Tony wrote wonderful database articles about, and that will also link you to the iPing app if you want to make sure that you have your stroke type correct. And it's an introduction into fitting you into a putter. So use those as you will. And guys, the next thing I have on the roster for today, Harry, how you doing? You drowning in shoes?
I have been for a couple of weeks now. You should look at our putting green. There is no green space. It's just covered in shoes.
Chris, what are you playing with there?
Playing with Boa.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to get to that in just a second. Harry, spiked shoes for the results for both men and women came out this week. Can you give us a breakdown of the best spiked shoes of 2021?
Yeah. So the best men's spiked shoes, I'll go for best value first.
Okay.
You got the Adidas, however you want to say it, Tech Response 2.0. I mean, for 65 nugs, it is just impressive. You get really good comfort. You get a good compact shoe. Stability is decent. Yes, it has some stuff to improve on, but for $65, it is one of those ones that you really just have to...
It's worth a try.
For sure. Fourth place, you're looking at Adidas ZG21 Boa, which Mr. Christopher Robin has it in his hands. Lots of people love Boa. Some people hate it. We'd love to know what you think about it, but
I think laces are for suckers.
well, you
Me
got
too.
Velcro shoes, so it's one of those ones.
Yeah, no, I'm getting there. Trying to age into Velcro.
But the Adidas, the ZG21 did really well. It's one of those shoes that fits a little bit wider, and most Adidas shoes tend to be a little bit narrow for most people, is what we've seen. But this one's it's a wide fit. So if you have a wide foot and you've never liked or never fit into Adidas before, this is one for you. 3 is New Balance Striker 2.0. Since 2 years ago, the New Balance have really stepped up their game when it comes to comfort. Now it is one of the most comfiest shoes on the market. So if you're looking for comfort, New Balance is one for you.
So the dads are on to something.
Or they've adapted more to a dad. The dads, they're trying
So
to
we're
grab more
all
dads.
slowly becoming dads. We're
Potentially. But I will say the dad shoe is potentially getting a little bit younger with its style options. It's becoming more progressive.
So
you could say
dads
that.
are getting cooler.
Yes, but the jokes are getting worse. And then you got second place, Skechers Go Golf Talk Pro. Now this shoe is really good across the board. The stability, traction, comfort is just phenomenal. They've fixed a slight issue, in my personal opinion, a slight issue when it comes to traction. The now sole is very grippy and tacky. So whatever conditions you go in, the sole of it itself is going to work with the spikes that it has attached to it too. So you have double whammy there, which you get really good traction.
Double whammy.
Or whammy. And then the number 1 spot is Under Armour Hover Drive. The GTX did really well last year. And the slight tweak on the Hover Drive, it is just a phenomenal shoe. Everything about it is just highly ranked.
The tweak is it's phenomenal.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a hell of a tweak.
It's a good one.
That is a good one.
The important thing about golf shoes and what Under Armour does well is you get the correct amount of lateral movement. When you have the right amount of lateral movement, you can transfer your weight correctly from toe to heel and then flip-flop it and go heel to toe on the downswing. So you need a slight bit of lateral movement, because otherwise, if you're locked in, it's really hard to get to that point, and it kind of locks your knees into place that little bit more, which could potentially give you an injury. So lateral movement is good. This shoe is fantastic at that. So there's your top 4 plus best value.
And for the ladies, this is something new we're doing this year. We're testing women's equipment as well. So how about for the ladies?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get some ladies' shoes out there for you.
Let's clarify this. You didn't try them on.
Not just for the weekends for Harry anymore.
No, I did not try them on. Let's rephrase, shall we, Matt?
No, I like where we are right
No.
now. Thank you.
No, I like where your head's at. I like this.
I'm very happy to start. Well, we have a lady tester first off, but start delving into more women's sections for buyer's guides. Are you saying I have tiny feet?
we have a lady tester.
We do have a lady tester. Why? What is going on here?
Now, let's clarify. Bennett has been in there. She's
Yes,
your
she
feet
has.
and your hands for this one. I got the day off, so you got somebody who is a little bit better at it than I am. So Bennett's been wearing all the shoes for you. But Harry, why don't you go ahead and break down the top 3 women's spiked shoes?
Yeah, so third place is Skechers Go Golf Jasmine. This one performed pretty solid overall. Had some improvements in certain departments, but overall it did pretty solid. Second place is Echo Biome Geo 3. With Echo itself, they again have a really good amount of lateral movement for that golfer. So the only interesting part about Echo, and it's just a note, that it's 5 and 5.5 or 6, 6.5 for size. They don't do 5, they don't do 5.5. It is a separate shoe. It is 5 and 5.5.
Oh.
So you might if you're on, say,
So they
5.
essentially don't do half sizes.
Well, they do Euro sizing, right? So it's
Yes.
like a 40. You can have a 38 or 39, or like I would wear a 45, but that would be 11 or 11 and a half.
But it tends to fit just that little bit bigger.
In your experience?
In Harry's experience,
It's
wearing
definitely
women's
it's because
shoes.
exactly the same concept in men's shoes as well. They just fit that tiny bit too big, and it's the same case with the ladies' shoes. And then you got your number one, which is Adidas Response Bounce 2. This one is exactly what it says on the tin. You feel like you're bouncing from cloud to cloud, if I will. Plus, the style is not too bad. The trend that we are seeing a little bit is the ladies section is very much of colors and lifestyle kind of look, slip on, and then taking away some performance. But the top three are focused purely on performance.
That was my next question. Are you seeing consistencies between men's and women's shoes, that the same things that do well in the men's category also do well in the women's category?
I mean, that's hard to say. This is the first year we've tested ladies, so I can't really delve into that. But just looking at the shoes that we have here, a lot of the lady shoes are based on looks and not, hey, let's focus on making the best shoe possible. Yes, there are companies out there that are just performance based. I'm not disputing that, but some of them out there, depending on what their premise is on the OEM, is more of a lifestyle brand and selling looks rather than performance. You can see that. But it's too early to see a correlation between men's and women's.
All right. Well, something that they both utilize is the BOA technology, right?
For some, yes. Adidas has the ZG21 for BOA in men's and women's. I know FootJoy are doing it as well in some of their shoes. Most companies do have one option of BOA for the most part.
So, Chris, I'm going to come to you because you're MyGolfSpy's biggest BOA fan, and I'm also just now noticing your shirt. Is that animal print?
Sure it is.
I don't know that he's the biggest BOA fan. I think
No, Tony?
Tony's up there.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Good.
Yeah.
So we've got two big BOA fans.
I just happen to live closer to BOA's headquarters. But no, I would absolutely say Tony has been a proponent of BOA. I'd say really since the onset. I think we both have. But so BOA's headquartered in Denver, Colorado, which is not too far from me. So chatted with them a little bit on two of the shoes that made it, that were in our test. I think Hyperflex, right? This was most comfortable, correct, Harry?
Yes, sir.
So you have Hyperflex, FootJoy, and then obviously, like we said, the ZG21 from Adidas. What was interesting to me, and what I wanted to ask them about a little bit, is kind of where are things at with BOA and why, and what are we seeing? And part of what's interesting about these two shoes is BOA has their own, and this is kind of right up our alley as a data-driven entity, is they have their own performance fit lab, which started a couple of years ago, but basically it's a separate area within BOA's campus where they basically do research and studies, and they've been working with Denver University trying to ascertain and trying to quantify performance benefits specific to different types of closure systems. Fancy way of saying, right? Different way to tie your shoes or get your, shoes on your feet.
Velcro in the house. Yeah.
That's it. Let them know. But so these are the first two shoes that have been designed based on feedback from the Performance Fit Lab. Cool. And so it's something that they've been working on for a while. They just released a paper. And again, this type of research is different than maybe the type of research that we do in a testing environment. Some of the research that they're doing is, primarily for academic purposes, right? Where it has to go through peer review and, publications in the academic community through scientific journals. Anyway, point being, the study they just came out with was based around specific like agility and movement, right? So you have explosive movements. Think volleyball, think tennis, think cycling, trail running, these kind of things. And what they were able to quantify is that their closer systems showed a 3% to 9% improvement over a variety of metrics. And this could be like contact time with the ground, energy transfer, efficiency of, energy retention, and these type of things. Now, whether or not that will eventually transfer over to the golf space, I think there's a lot of room to debate that and discuss that. But two things that you're going to see in these shoes that people may or may not notice is you've seen kind of this closure system, this kind of wrap system now where, ultimately the shoe is now closing kind of right on the side of your foot. And people might ask, well, why is that? Why not? Whatever the case is. And I said, think about it kind of like this, right? Like most of the time when you tie shoes, you're tying it on the top of your foot, right? And if anything, basically what you're trying to get is two pieces of material to close on something that's more of a ridge, right? So from a performance standpoint, that doesn't make much sense. What you'd want to see, right, is a closure system that's on something that's a little bit flatter and more consistent, which would be probably the lateral side of your foot, right? So you think about ski boots. Think about, if you've ever been skiing and you don't have your boots tightly fastened or clipped where they need to be, and you can kind of feel your foot moving in your boot as you go to turn in and out of turns. It gets kind of sloppy, right? And so
I was sloppy no matter where my feet were, but
yeah. So, that's kind of an interesting piece. I saw somebody in the article, I think, mentioned that, oh, you should have tested, or, the Skechers one should have been up there, the Skechers, whatever, torque twist. Well, it's funny. That's not a Boa system. You can tell. One, it doesn't say Boa on it. And two, they put it right on top of kind of where the laces would be, which is a super inefficient place to put that. I really doubt that you're going to see anything from Boa be, in the short term on kind of that tongue or midsole or kind of top area. You're going to see most of it, kind of in a wrap system laterally. Or people might wonder, well, why in FootJoys do I always see them on the back? Reason is FootJoy was the heritage partner with Boa, so they were the first ones to sign on with Boa, and as such, they get this heel mount location. Nobody else can have that.
I think I like it better on the back. It's almost less noticeable.
Yeah, I think FootJoy appreciates that. They're going to, so they're the only one that can have it there as of right now. That's probably not going to change. So that's something that they kind of key into and hold on to. I asked.
Fun fact about FootJoy.
Yeah.
It's a Shoes sister company.
I
so many companies.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Does Shoes make shoes?
Shoes.
If you have questions on Boa stuff or thought stuff, post them below.
I have a question.
Yes, Miranda.
That's all very scientific and datacratic, which we love, but 3 to 9%, do you think that laces really even need to be replaced? And if so,
yeah,
are we eventually going to live in a world where shoelaces are non-existent, where our kids won't even know what shoelaces are?
Back to Tony's Velcro.
Yeah, look, laces are for suckers. That's what I took from the summary of what Chris was saying about that study.
Boa is really good, really easy, really efficient at just, click on and twist. You're up. The only thing that when I tested them is they do loosen up over time. So you potentially have to
Same as laces, right?
Yes.
You have to retie your shoes.
Exactly. But normally when I do it, I tighten mine up as tight as they can be, and then they loosen up to a area that I like. With this, I had to keep twisting them just to keep them tight. Now, what happens if the Boa breaks?
Oh, really
great
question.
What happens if your laces break?
You go to Target and get new laces. Do you have to send your shoes back to Boa to have the Boa replaced?
Exactly.
There is a warranty. You do get them replaced, but you're without your shoes.
Yeah, but you're without your shoes. So, yes.
So, yes and no. It's a fair question and a fair point.
My question is, do you shoot lower scores with Boa?
So, here's my answer to that. I have no idea, but here's what I do know. Here's what I do know.
What if you put a Boa on a square-toed shoe?
Well, sounds like we need to call the guy at Squares.
You very well may set the course record every time you go out.
Every time.
So, every time, all the time. Sex Panther.
I shot an 18 today.
All right, so two things. Number one is we know that there are golfers out there, right? And I think, Harry, you mentioned this. They want to control as many variables as possible to play and shoot the lowest scores they possibly can, right? People will dial in their equipment to the nth degree, right? You get fit for different clubs. People, obviously, when you do that, you're trying to eliminate variables. You check the loft and lie on your irons, right? You're not going to play irons that are 2 degrees up in every iron except your 9 iron. That's only 1 degree up, right? You want to try to control all these variables. So my question would be, why would you not try to control the 2 variables that are the connection points throughout the swing, being 1, your hands, and 2, your feet? Right? We know a lot of people are fit for the wrong size glove and I can't make that big of a difference, this, that, whatever. And you say, well, geez, when you have the correct size grip or the grip that works for you and a glove that fits, people go, oh, geez, that does feel a little bit different, right? I don't think anybody would choose to play with an old super slick glove or something like that. Why would we not have the same argument for your feet, right? People chase 1/10 of a mile an hour swing speed. People chase 1 mile an hour of swing speed and spend $500 on it if a new driver can provide that. What if you could provide 1 to 2 miles per hour swing speed with $150 pair of shoes? Yeah. Why would anybody not want to take advantage of that?
That's a good point. And I know if you fit with the correct shoe size, you can gain miles an hour on your golf swing because you're using the ground effectively and you're not slipping and sliding in your shoes. I get that. But right now, I don't see any study that says BOA can give you extra miles an hour than a lace can or whatever. Correct. It's more of convenience.
Right. And that's a great point. And that's where they're getting to in this performance fit lab. They're not there yet, but that's an area of study. What they were able to do and quantify with agility-based movements, they are working that in a golf space specifically. So whether that's this year or the next year, again, the burden of proof that they need in a scientific and academic environment is much different than maybe what we're used to. So sometimes these studies take quite a bit longer till they could state definitively that we can see
laces are for suckers.
So hypothesis, laces are for suckers. Abstract, laces are for suckers, and here's why. But are they going to get there? We'll see. And I think there's 2 other things to consider in that. It's not just a performance from swing to swing type of factor. There's also the element of what about trying to hit shots off different lies, different conditions, wet grass, soft grass, longer grass, shorter grass.
Pine cones, deep weeds.
Are you able to transfer energy better, more efficiently and effectively in different situations? What about on the 2nd or 3rd day of a tournament for people that are playing professionally that have 54-hole and 72-hole events? How important is it to have that same efficiency in your swing on holes 16, 17, and 18 when you're coming down the stretch, right? I think those are all areas they want to investigate and certainly want to look at. But the reality is not there yet from a quantifiable standpoint, but I am not going to be at all surprised when they do that and they come back to Tony's premise, which is, Tony?
Laces are for suckers.
Boom.
I think we're missing the biggest thing here.
What's that?
Price. Would you be paying $200 for a shoe? Period. Question.
Would I pay $200?
In my soccer days, yes, absolutely I did.
My thing is look, the things you don't skimp on in life are things you put on your feet, like socks and shoes, and you don't skimp on underwear. That's where you need to spend money.
Oh, cheap underwear is for suckers.
So yeah, I'm a guy who's like, if I can get a comfortable, durable, long-lasting shoe.
You always have performance-driven buyers, and then you have preference-driven buyers. And the reality is, where I may want performance, somebody else may want preference, right?
Somebody prefers not to spend $200 on a shoe is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, far more people buy golf equipment the way that we buy, that I buy a pair of jeans, right? I want to ask 3 questions and be out the door as fast as I can, and I'll see you in 3-4 years. Does it fit? Does it have this? Okay, da-da-da-da-da. Great, what's the best value? Hey, it's buy 2, get 2 free. Done. Sign me up. Right? But my wife, when she goes to buy products for her hair, she is not a preference driven. And so you're going to spend that $20, $30, $40 on that shampoo, conditioner, whatever. I see Miranda nodding because she knows.
Yeah, and then Harry uses it, and I have to get really mad about it.
No, I
yes,
do.
because
back to Harry using the women's product.
That's it.
I'm kidding.
The other. That's it. So you're always going to have those buyers.
The other thing I think that's really worth adding to this conversation, above and beyond the fact that just on principle laces are for suckers, is that BOA versions tend to fit a little bit differently in a lot of these models. And so, if there is a shoe you really like, and for whatever reason the fit with the lace doesn't feel just right, there's a chance that the BOA version is going to fit the way you want it to fit. And that works the other way too. There are going to be shoes where you may want the BOA, and as much as I believe BOA is a superior system and that laces are for suckers, if the BOA system doesn't fit right and the lace system does, buy the lace model. I mean, it's common sense there.
I've found that in testing is the ones with like a mesh material that's a lot more easy to bend. It's just like it's like a sock, basically. Our BOA is very, very good. Something with a more of a rigid top part upper, I lose a little bit of stability in the lower part of my midsection, if that makes sense, of the foot.
Well, that could be. I mean, and again, every BOA is a little bit different how the cables are run and where they pull. So it is very much shoe to shoe. Yeah.
It could be designed as well, but that's what I've just been seeing in my own testing whilst putting on these shoes, which is like 60 shoes.
All right, well, we'll table this until BOA gets further.
But we're coming back. We will be coming back. We may table it.
That's a nice looking shoe right there.
Damn it.
It is a good looking shoe.
You know what? I'm going to wear this shoe, and when they come out with a different color, I'm going to buy that color too, because they're, I love them. They're great. But these, I know we're not supposed to, who cares how the testing goes, and, people are like, oh, as long as that, fit my personal narrative, then I agree with it. If it didn't, then I don't. But these are damn comfortable.
Still waiting for another freestyle.
The Frogger, the Tony Frogger.
I am, the world's biggest FootJoy freestyle fan.
As we're talking about shoes right now, let's do an English phrase. You guys are going to laugh.
Okay.
An English phrase to do with shoes. Okay?
It doesn't have to do with the cobbler?
And how he cuts out the shoe pattern with his teeth.
All right, all my English buddies and UK buddies over there are going to be laughing their heads off. Poo flickers.
I am.
Poo flickers? So it sounds like something you flick poop with, like a pooper scooper.
Oh, is it the American the equivalent of a shit kicker? Like it's just a big chunky boot kind of thing?
No.
Oh.
No, so a poo flicker is a shoe that has a really narrow pointy end to it, so you can just get underneath and just go floop.
Okay.
Noted.
Poo flickers. When you're walking down the pavement and you see some poo on the side, flick it off. Why is it dead silence? It should be hilarious.
I mean, I
Tony, would you like to talk about the Callaway Chrome Soft XLS?
I'd love to talk about anything else.
Other than Harry wearing women's clothes and poo flickers. Yeah.
Prop time. So we have a new golf ball from Callaway within the Chrome Soft line. This is the Chrome Soft XLS. Like the Chrome Soft X, it is not actually a soft golf ball by any reasonable quantifiable means. Super high compression or on the higher end, so about 95 on paper. We haven't measured them to see kind of what they come in on our gauge, but that's what I've been told to expect, about the same as Chrome Soft X. Key thing here, low spin golf ball, so high compression, high launch, low spin. Which, if you've been keeping up at all, sounds a hell of a lot like the Pro V1X Left Dash. And to a degree, TaylorMade TP5X balls in that category, essentially distance balls within the tour category. So, really, really intriguing offering from Callaway for a number of reasons, and not the least of which here is I've cut like 6 of these open, and so far I haven't found a single thing that I can point to deduct anything from. So small sample size, and the balls were provided by Callaway, but so far everything looks really good here. So this, I think, Callaway says for the better player, but really I think it's for the high spin player looking for more distance. This is going to be a really intriguing option, which to Callaway's credit is going to be a lot easier to find than the Pro V1X Left Dash as well. So there you go.
Boom.
So what is Callaway doing to differentiate themselves from what Titleist is doing in their Pro V1 line?
Well, I mean, I guess if we want to talk specifically with the low spin model, the first thing is that they're actually putting it on every retail shelf where Callaway balls are sold, which is, it still befuddles me that Left Dash, as good a ball as that is, as good as it is at providing things that golfers want, which is distance, primarily that it's special order, or you have to go to a limited number of web retailers that stock it. Otherwise, you can't find it even if you know it exists. So, that's one plus for Callaway. And the other thing, and I mentioned this in the article, so this is the triple track version here. I have a standard white, and I've got a yellow triple track here as well. So 3 different options, and we know that a lot of golfers don't care necessarily about that, but kind of the baffling stat I got from talking to Callaway about this ball is that triple track is their biggest seller across all lines where it's offered. So the ERC Soft is triple track only, so obviously that's their biggest seller. Chrome Soft, triple track is their biggest seller. Chrome Soft X, triple track is their biggest seller. And so, I think we can anticipate it's going to be the biggest seller with CSS LS. 25 to 35% of Callaway staffers on tour every week are now playing a triple track ball. And again, this is a case where I think Titleist is moving at a glacial pace. So this, is kind of what I hinted at a few weeks ago, where Callaway has an opportunity to hit Titleist with things that Titleist isn't doing, and we can say that patterns don't matter, and I think to a large degree they probably don't from a performance standpoint. Although Callaway would argue triple track does, but it's something that golfers respond to. TaylorMade's had success with the Pix line to the point where they can't make enough of them to meet the demand. And so, for the market to say, hey, yeah, there is a clear interest in these type of products, these, whether you want to call them alignment aids, decorative, whatever, for the number one company in the golf ball market to just kind of sit back and go, you know what, we're not going to really do that right now.
So that's my question, Tony. Like, what do you think? So we're seeing these 2 different pieces here, right? And so, full disclosure, I play the left dash, Pro V1X left dash, and I love that ball. I swear by the ball. It's the longest golf ball that I think in the tour space that people don't talk about, but part of that could be because, like you said,
it's amazing when you talk to guys at Titleist. It's like all the guys at Titleist that I talk to about the various products, they're all left dash guys. It's amazing.
So I guess that's my question is what do you think is really behind the reluctance to, like you said, put it on every retail shelf, or basically, if you go to a store and they have Pro V1X, they have Pro V1, right? It's not like, oh, geez, they got chocolate and they don't have the vanilla, right? It's like those are always there. So what's really behind the reluctance to put that out there full throttle?
Well, don't they say that they only cater to like 10% of the golfing market?
Yeah, and 10% of golfers is a lot of golfers. It's a few factors, I think. One, right, the official position is it's a niche golf ball that isn't right for a lot of golfers, and that's potentially true, but you have to give golfers the choice. I'll go back to Chrome Soft, right? And not to pile it on here, but I don't think that's a particularly good golf ball. Certainly not what it's advertised to be as a soft tour ball. It's not a tour ball, right? And so, we saw in our driver test that for higher speed players, there is a distance penalty for that. And golfers flock to that ball anyway. And, I'm not trying to put anybody down, put Callaway down. The fact of the matter is you ultimately have to let golfers make the decisions for themselves. And that means giving them the tools, right? That's what I mentioned in the Callaway LS article and that the tools are access to the golf ball and product knowledge. And Titleist has this with Left Dash, this really good product, I think, that probably fits more golfers than Titleist is comfortable admitting it does.
Right.
And they're not really giving a lot of info, and they're not giving easy access to the product. And so I think...
Does this change that? Like, if the LS is popular and they start to see numbers, sales, things like that, if they start to see that LS at all starts to chip away or eat away at any part of that, do you think that would be enough for them to change strategy and go, okay, let's put it out in more retail accounts or more green grass accounts, or let's crank that up a little bit?
I think it would be amazingly obtuse if it didn't, because again, it's you have this competitive product now, right? This ball competes with Left Dash, and again, Titleist has been reticent to put it on store shelves, widespread availability. It is, to me, and I've spoken to people in Titleist about this in the past, and it really just comes down to this is, that's not what Titleist does, but it blows my mind that there isn't some marketing that centers around a more elegant version of Left Dash as the longest fucking golf ball on the market, right? Because that's probably, I think with reasonable certainty that is an accurate statement. Uh-huh. Titleist has legal hurdles to say something like that I don't have, but I believe it is the longest ball in the market, and they're not saying that.
Right.
And so you can bet that Callaway is going to talk about in some form or another this being their longest ball. And TaylorMade does that with TP5X, which is all in that same category. So
well,
to have
Bryson, you got Bryson the Tour BX, right?
Right.
I mean,
and so
same type of messaging.
How do you take the longest, because golf, we can all talk about nuance and strokes gained and launch conditions and getting everything perfect, but at the end of the day, it's been proven time and time again that distance is what golfers want. And so it's amazingly bizarre to me to bench your longest product in any given category. Yeah. And so that, with that being said, I think Titleist has probably been racking its brain for a number of years now with what to do with Left Dash. And I think the emergence of this Callaway ChromeSoft XLS changes that. I think it forces the conversation. I think it forces a response. So I wouldn't be shocked if and this is crazy, but there are cycles. And so I think maybe they do something in the fall. But I think logically it aligns with AVX as next year as a new product.
Yeah.
Do you think they have a bigger fish to fry and they don't want to get into that high school debate of, hey, this is the longest ball. No, this is the longest ball. No, you're the longest ball. Whatever it is, maybe they just focus on quality.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive, though.
Yeah, you can make a really high quality long golf ball.
That's what I'm saying.
And so
I wonder if they just don't want to get into that space of that little battle.
I think it's a fitting. For them, it's a fitting question, right? And so there is an argument that is, hey, we're Titleist, and so we need to make a distance claim with our golf ball. But
so Tony, that then brings me to my hot seat question: that if Titleist isn't making those claims, and depending on what they do about the emergency of the XLS, do you think that means Titleist is poised to lose their number one spot in the golf ball realm?
No way. No. I mean, it's a fun conversation, but this goes back. So I remember this is going on 10 years ago, my maybe first or second PGA show. I was at a dinner, and it was a Nike dinner, and I happened to be sitting with, I won't mention any names, but a guy who's been doing the equipment thing, twice as long as I have, if not longer at this point. And, we posed a question, like, do you think anybody, because at that time, right, Nike was still seen as this viable golf brand that was just waiting to hit its stride and become this juggernaut. So in hindsight, it seems almost laughable to think about a Nike golf ball as, sort of overtaking a leadership position in the market. But, we were talking about, hey, when will somebody surpass Titleist as the number one ball? And he basically looked at me, he's like, not in our lifetime. And I still think that's true. Callaway's market share is probably, and it's dicey where you count and how you count and who reports, but it's realistically, it's about half of Titleist right now. And so Titleist is in no immediate danger of becoming the number 2 golf brand. ChromeSoft XLS is not going to catapult Callaway beyond Titleist by any stretch. It's maybe a couple points, probably only tenths of points, but it's just one of those little things that once things start eating into your share, it's like hemorrhaging, right? It gets a little harder to stop the blood loss. And so I think it is one of those things that helps advance Callaway in the golf ball category, and I think it does it directly to at Titleist's detriment. I think this is going to be a case where, again, knowing that not everybody knows about Left Dash, this is one where if a Pro V1X player decides, hey, yeah, this is a high compression, high launch golf ball, that's what I like. And this really, like, you can think of this from a performance specification. It's like a high compression ChromeSoft to a degree. It's, high launch, low spin, designed to go a long way. The difference is it's still going to go a long way off the driver. Golfers want that. And so I think this kind of kicks open a door that Callaway didn't have before in its lineup. And again, I think the company that runs the risk of losing in that conversation is Titleist. And that's, again, not losing, tens of percentage points at a time, but taking a little hit, especially if it doesn't respond, if it continues to bench its longest ball, if it continues not to offer things like alignment aids or patterns or anything that is, dare I say, fun.
Well, and I think that's the thing is to address those potential, pressure points. It's very, very little that Titleist, again, we're talking tweaks, right? He said offering different things, the things that make Titleist the number one ball in golf, and on the tour. You look at, we don't see this type of domination in the tour stats except for a few categories, right? Golf Pride grips, 80% or whatever. Depending on the week and the event, you'll see that 80% number or something close to it pop up for Titleist ball usage on tour.
I think, the number's about 74%. And, a lot of that's paid, but every piece of equipment short of a grip and a shaft is paid for on the tour.
Yeah,
so.
and we just don't see that type of domination in other categories.
That's
and
true.
For Titleist to add alignment feature, to add, like I said, different kind of visual systems or whatever you want to call it on the ball, that's not a major leap from where they are now, right? That would be small tweaks, little things.
Why would you fix something that's not broken?
To get better. I'd say it is broken then, if it's not as good as it can be.
Here's the only stat that I think matters in this conversation, right? Titleist's market share in the ball category is less now than it was 2 years ago. So
right.
That is not broken to the degree of falling off the map, distant number 2.
How much is it? Yeah. How much is it different?
It has calmed down. Callaway is upwards of 20% on the market. And again, depending on whose numbers you use, you can get anywhere from 18 to 25%.
Right.
But, just prior to the ball that changed the ball, if you will, Callaway was not a double-digit market share company. You had Titleist that was effectively light years ahead of. There was no number 2 brand, is the way to think about it. It was Titleist and literally everybody else hovering sub 10 percentage points to the market for the most part. And just
other. It was like Titleist and then other category. That's what he had.
Depending on who had the hot ball, they go up and down a little bit. And now what you've seen is Callaway just leap into this number 2 position. TaylorMade is a solid number 3. You're starting to see trends that mirror other equipment lines. So,
right.
Where there is a clear number 1 and a clear number 2, and who's chasing who now. And that wasn't even going back to that conversation I had at the Nike dinner all those years ago. That wasn't a conversation, right? There was no number 2. And that was a point that was brought up as well. Like you can't even talk about Titleist not being number 1 until you can figure out who number 2 is. And at that point, it really was Titleist and everybody else. And now it's Titleist and then it's Callaway. And there's still a lot of room between those two. And I think Callaway has a lot of work to do. They have reputation rebuilding to do, especially at the tour level. But something's got to give a little bit, right? You have to adapt, I think, even if you're Titleist. And that doesn't mean you have to go nuts and start doing wild shit that doesn't make any sense,
Right.
You don't have to do what Vice does and splatter paint your golf balls, for example. But you need to look at the trends and go, maybe.
You know how we can settle this ball war?
How can we settle this, Harry?
Is you remember Anchorman? And they get all the news stations around in a circle and they just fight.
Yeah.
That's what they should do. And the best and the one that comes out on top is the number 1 winner. Blood is spilled.
I mean, would they wear their poop scoopers or whatever?
They could poop scoopers.
Oh my God.
They could do that.
Harry, are you saying ditto for the hot seat? Titleist hangs on to it? They're not being threatened at all?
There's no question. I think if they're threatened, they would probably send a legal letter somehow. They're not even worried about this, in my opinion.
All right. Well, I think that about sums it up for today. We'll link Tony's Callaway Chromsoft XLS article as well as both men's and women's spike shoes article for you. Chris, do you have an exit song for us today? We were so into our music last week and everyone loved that show. We got rave reviews.
People,
not from me.
the amount of people that I decided I never want to play golf with in my life went up by about 212 last week, but yeah.
About that blaze, no challenge.
I'm all about that blaze,
about that blaze.
Odyssey triple track, right? What they're doing there. First of all, they tend to put that in, again, multi-piece, if not multi-material construction. They had to license or buy that triple track technology from a third party, so there's cost associated in that.